Welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, today is a day I've been looking forward to for quite some time because I'm down at Farnham Honda and I'm riding the brand new Honda Hornet. This is it here, 1000cc Honda Hornet, 150 horsepower, 107 newton meters of torque. Now this is a weapon, and what's really amazing about this bike is this standard version only costs £9,000. £9,000 for a litre naked bike putting out 150 horsepower. How have Honda done it? Well, we'll go into that a bit later in the video, but if you're interested in the Honda Hornet, then this is the video for you. Got to be a little bit careful because it's only 6 degrees today. As you can see, it's a bit wet as well, and this bike only has 2 miles on the clock, so I'm the first one to take this machine out, and we've got brand new tyres, so yeah, we're getting a little bit steady, but I'll give you my thoughts on this bike. As some of you will know, I've actually purchased one of these, so I've actually ordered an SP. I haven't ridden it yet, so I'm incredibly interested to see how this bike handles. So if you're interested in Honda Hornet, you know what you've got to do. Settle yourselves down, get yourself a cup of tea, and chop C. Roll the intro. So first of all, I've got to say a massive thanks to the guys at Farnham Honda for looking after me and letting me on this bike first. I mean, literally first. It's been to the garage to get some petrol and a PDI, that's it. It was only made road legal yesterday, so these have literally just started hitting the dealers, you know, right now. So yeah, massive thanks to the guys at Farnham Honda for letting me loose on this. And I'm going to be doing a lot more with the guys here because, of course, I'm buying my SP from here. So we're going to do all the collection from here. So yeah, expect to see a lot more from the guys at Pyramid Moto. We will stop and we'll do a good walk around of this bike, you know, in a bit. But first impressions, getting on it, oh, I like it. I like a lot of people said on the launch videos, you know, it's a bit small, but sitting on it, it's got a really sort of girthy feel to the front there. Handlebars are nice, quite high. Right, let's fire up. As I say, this bike is brand new, so we'll take it a little bit steady on it. Feels really smooth. It's a Honda, of course it feels smooth. God, it feels agile. That really wants to change direction quickly. One thing Honda have done is they've put a 180 rear tyre on it, as opposed to going, actually let's go this way, as opposed to going sort of the 190 route on a litre bike. They've gone 180/55, so you know, a bit more dished but not quite as wide, and that is to, I think, make the bike very agile, a bit like the Hornet 750 was the same. The riding position is very comfortable. It feels like it's got a reasonably low seat height. You do feel a tiny little bit locked in to the seat. You know, I'm a big 20 stone fatty and I do feel a little bit locked in, but not as bad as like the BMW XR or anything like that. But I can feel, you know, the back of the rear seat, like I'll show you when I get off the bike, but I can just feel that near my bum, so I've not got that much room to move back and forward. The peg height, I'd say, feels, it feels like it's a little bit cramped. I'm going to say the word cramped, not excessively. I'd say it's similar to sort of other bikes in this segment, a bit like the Tuono. You know, you've got a peg which is a reasonable height, so you've got that ground clearance, but it's certainly not tight in the leg, and the bars are sort of right there, so you're very upright. You haven't got much weight on the front end, you know, you're sat quite upright on it. So it's not like it's got a flat bar and you're leaning over the front and you're loading the front wheel. They feel quite upright, so I'm actually sat quite upright and I've got no real weight on my wrists at all. It's a straight 4 engine, so these straight 4 engines can be a little bit buzzy, and I can feel a little bit of a buzz through the bike. I mean, bear in mind this bike's got 3.6 miles on it, so it is brand new, but I can feel a little bit of vibrations through the actual bike itself and a little bit through the bars. We'll see, and that could be a particular rev range, so we'll watch that to see where the vibes are worse, and if they become intrusive, but they're certainly not intrusive. But I can feel a little bit of buzziness, you know, through the seat, or through the tank as well, when I've got my legs gripping around the tank. Oh, it's got a bit of pickup. It's got some urgency to it when she gets sort of past 3,000 revs. So if we take her up to sort of 70 miles an hour, now those vibrations are no worse than what they were low down, so they've not become worse as the revs increases. I can still feel a little bit through the seat. The seat feels a bit sort of sculpted as well. It feels like the seat might be a bit hard, so we'll see how we get on with that seat as we carry on. But first impressions getting on the bike, I'm not going to be cancelling my order. Let's put it that way. It feels nice. Let's have a little go on the brakes. Yeah, they feel pretty good actually, better than I was expecting. Especially when the bike's got 2 miles on the clock. Normally it takes a little while for the brakes to even bed in. They're biting nicely already. On the standard one you don't have the Stylema calipers. I think you've got Nissan calipers, Nissan Master, rubber brake hoses as well. So the SP has the Stylemas, but actually that feels like a fair bit of bite there. We'll see when we get onto something which isn't a dual carriageway. I don't want to do the whole video on the dual carriageway, but I want to give you my first impressions, and I'm just trying to get to some decent roads. On the brakes, yeah, they feel good actually. Rear brake, yeah, rear brake feels like a rear brake. It's not massive to bite there. Oh, forgot I didn't have a quick shifter then. Yeah, it's got a nice urgent pickup. It's quite punchy, even at the mid-range bottom end. I don't feel like I'm going to have to be chasing the red line all the time, which you sometimes have to do on a straight 4 to really get a shifty on. But there's a nice bit of mid-range, a nice bit of power there. It's quite quiet. The standard bike does not have the exhaust valve. The SP is another 5 brake horsepower more than the standard version, and that's because it's got an exhaust valve which obviously opens when you go over a certain rev range and unleashes a bit more power. So this is obviously a bit more corked up than the SP version without the valve, so I think this will be quieter, but it's a good amount of punch there. I love that. I'm getting really good feedback from the tarmac. This is a bumpy bit of road, obviously very wet as well. I've got brand new tyres, so I've got to take it a bit steady. But I could feel exactly what the tarmac's doing. You know, on the launch reviews, obviously they were in Spain and they were hammering around the twisties, and you know, all the feedback from everyone, the handling was amazing. But I can just, what's impressing is even going in the wet, slow in the cold, I can feel the tarmac. Really good feedback from the tarmac, even on this standard bike. And I think that 180 rear tyre, the 55 profile for a Japanese manufacturer, they never put 55s on their bikes, always 50s. But it feels agile. And the way Honda have set the centre of gravity on this, they've put quite a lot of weight on the nose, and I think that's why I'm getting that feeling from the nose. Even though I'm not sat over the front of the bike, I'm sat upright, because the engine's quite far forward, it is loading the front wheel, so I'm getting some good feedback from the front end. I can see how you could sort of push this and feel for grip, because I can really feel exactly what the tarmac's doing. I really like that. The old CB1000, I could never get it to handle right. It didn't feel right. You know, the Neo CAF version they did, the previous one to this, it just didn't handle nicely. And I said it could be the suspension, and I played around with the suspension and firmed it up, but it never felt like a machine built for the twisties, and I don't think it ever was. It was sort of more of a CAF racer, you know, straight line bike. This is completely different. Even just jumping on this now, on this soaking wet roads, it's egging me to go faster, and I love that in a bike. I love a bike which eggs you to push it on. This is a rider's machine. This isn't just about going to the coffee shops. I can tell you right now, this is about hitting the twisties, having some fun. Already riding this for 10 minutes, I can tell you this is an absolute bargain for £9,000. If I had to guess the price of this machine, I'd be saying sort of 12,000, and then maybe 13 and a half for the SP, maybe even 14 for the SP. Well, I haven't ridden it, so, but just on the spec, £9,000. How Honda have done that is basically, you know, this is an old engine, this is a 2017 Fireblade engine. Who cares? You know, a fantastic power plant that is. That's not like the new Fireblade engine, which is basically a race engine, all the power's at the top. 2017 was when Fireblades were made primarily as a good road sports bike, and they had a good deal of grunt, you know, low down anyway. So when this is actually tuned for grunt and a bit less at the top, it's impressive. And I know it's only, you know, they say it's only you know, 107 Newton meters, which doesn't sound like a huge amount of torque for a litre bike, but I'm surprised, I'm impressed. I was a bit worried that it might be really flat at the bottom and in the middle, but it's really not. It's got a load of drive. So let's have a little bit of a walk around the machine and see what we can spot, what's of interest. So first of all, you know, let's talk about the things I'm not so keen on, and the things I've mentioned already. This is this frame. Now this frame is unique for this bike. You know, it's designed for this bike. It's a ground up built frame. It's not used in any other models. But as I mentioned, you can see where it's all one piece. There's no, it could be bolted on here, but it's not. It's all one piece. Don't know really why they've done that, but you know, it's no problem, is it? But if you did have an off and damage the rear, as I said, you'd have to replace the whole frame. You can see there's an odd little there, look, the weld there. It's a little bit cheap looking, isn't it, that weld there? But you know, overall, there's a really nice look, nice finish to the engine. On this one, as an option, you can get little side pods that go on here. Obviously, as I said, this one is completely stock, so it's got none of those little extras. You can also get a little deflector which goes here as well. But I really like that headlight cowl, and you know, everyone said it, there's more than a resemblance to the Ducati Street Fighter there, isn't there? Twin lights inside of there, and they actually look really cool, don't they? With the little running light on top and the little projector lamps in there. You get the indicators on all the time, like as a running light. I'm not keen on that with Hondas either, to be honest, but hey ho, I can live with it. The base bike does have the Nissan calipers, but I'm impressed with the performance and feel of those. I was expecting it to feel a lot more wooden than that. The exhaust is big, it is bulbous, of course it is. You know, they've got to get these bikes through Euro 5 emission control, you know, and as I mentioned, you know, they've not wasted too much money designing something which is a bit smaller. They've sort of think, hang on, people are going to change it anyway, let's just chuck on a great big can, get it through the emissions, and then people can swap those out aftermarket, or we'll offer the nice SC project if people want to make it look a little bit better. I've got size 12 feet, and occasionally I felt it touch this guard. So I think that guard is very much there for a reason. Rear tail light, compact and sporty, and then you've got the indicators down on this arrangement here. So obviously that is, you know, the tail is awful. I quite like the little like fins in it, but you know, that's a legal requirement. I like the fact you've got a rear hugger as standard, so that's nice, and it's actually a reasonable length as well. It's not really short. You can see there's a fair bit of crud thrown up. And you've got the rectifier at the back of the bike here, so the rectifier is quite exposed. Here's that Fireblade derived engine from the left hand side. So it's all, you know, it's all very exposed here, isn't it? Under the tail, ooh, well, you've actually got a bit of storage there. I would call that storage. Ah, there you go, there's a USB. So there's a USB charger under the bike here as standard. As I mentioned, that the seat is quite contoured to your arse, and it's a bit hard at the back here, so I've not got any body pain at the moment, but I can probably see on a longer trip that is quite a hard seat, to be honest, and that's what I could feel on my arse, just this behind me. So it's quite a little compact seat. You've not got masses of room to move around. If you're any fatter than me, you might struggle. There's not many people fatter than me, let's be honest. Switch gear is pretty basic, but it actually feels quite nice. I'm not sure if it's illuminated. Let's see if we can tell if it's illuminated. I don't think there's any illumination on this piece around the switch gear, so not illuminated switch gear, but hey ho, at the price point, I'm not going to complain about that. Let's go through some of the options with the dash. You've got a mode button, which will obviously just take you through the standard riding modes. You do have these user modes, so you also have some options on how the dash looks. So let's try the circular option. Oh, there we go. Your fuel range and level riding modes. Here we go. So this is how you configure your riding mode. So I want full power. I'm going to try a bit more engine braking, and then you can have traction control off if you wish. Yeah, there we go. So my user 1 mode has traction control off because you've got a little light to tell you your traction control's off. So if I were to turn the bike on and off, I wonder if that traction control stays off. So if I go back to user 1 after turning the bike off, I think the traction control is back on again. So that is a bit of a pain in the backside, isn't it? So you have to go in to configure function, riding modes. Yeah, look, and it's come back on again. So that is, you've got to go through all those steps to turn off the traction control. Yeah, the health and safety bods have had their input there, haven't they? Health and safety bods, trying to stop people's fun. Yes, very, very impressive at the price point. And I think very impressive. If it was £12,000, I'd still be impressed. Certainly impressed with how dynamic the bike is to ride, how much feedback I'm getting from the tarmac. You know, those are the things which really matter to me. If I'm buying a bike like this, a sports naked, I want to be able to get a wriggle on. I want to be able to push it. I want to be able to feel what the road's doing. I don't want a sort of numb feeling, and you've definitely got that on this. So that's fantastic news. What is impressive, and even more impressive at this price point, is the suspension. It does feel quality. I mean, if you look at some of the competition at £9,000, you're on the real budget suspension. You're on some of the suspension which is non-adjustable fully on some of those bikes, and on this you've got fully adjustable suspension, but it feels premium. You know, it doesn't have any sort of budget feel. This is what this bike is like. It's, you know, it is a £9,000 motorcycle, but it just does not feel like a £9,000 motorcycle. There's 1,000 of each of the bikes coming into the UK. There's 1,000 SPs, there's 1,000 standard ones coming this year. And just speaking to Noah at Farnham Honda, they're saying basically, you know, most people are buying the SP. Of course they are. You know, you get an Olin shock, Stylene calipers, another 5 brake horsepower, I think another 4 Newton meters of torque, and the quick shifter. You know, for £1,000 extra, that's a hell of a lot for £1,000. So of course, I think 90% of the people are buying the SP, but the SP only comes in the black or the sort of grey matte and the gold wheels. The standard one comes in some different colours, and they've got a red one in the showroom, and I'll show you when we get there. The red actually looks really nice. It's definitely got more than a little bit of Ducati Street Fighter about it in the red. So I can see why people may think, well, I'm not bothered about all those extras, I'd rather get the colour I want. And if that's a decision you've made, then I can tell you, you won't be disappointed with the standard bike. If the SP didn't exist, I'd be just as happy to buy this. It would have been nice if cruise control was an option, but it's not even an option. You can't fit cruise control. So that is a shame, but that's something its competitors do have. You know, the litre bike competitors do have cruise control. The overall feel of the bike is just, you know, very easy to ride, very Honda, smooth, lovely gearbox. I mean, the engine I think is absolutely superb. I say there's a tiny little bit of vibes I noticed when I first got on it, but now I've been going for a while, you know, it's no bother. like neutral, straight away into neutral. So I think basically Honda are onto an absolute winner with this machine. I think it's gonna tick a lot of boxes for a lot of people, and I guess the biggest decision you've got to make is, do you get the SP or do you get the standard one? Well, I think for an extra £1,000, you know, if your budget could stretch the extra £1,000, I think the SP will be the one to get, and I think mainly probably due to the fact it's got a bit more torque and a bit more power. You know, everything else I guess you can address and I guess you can change, but I mean the standard setup is very, very good and much better than I thought it was going to be. You know, the plushness of the ride is good. I mean, it's a firm, it's a sporty ride. They've set this up as a sporty ride because, like I say, I could feel exactly what this tarmac's doing beneath me. I could feel more or less every little bit of texture on it, you know. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, and it's not crashy, but it is firm, you know. And of course it is fully adjustable as well, but sometimes, you know, you can twiddle your adjusters all day long, it won't really make much difference. But this bike has been set up to be a nice sporty thing, and look at that drive. I mean, there's plenty of low down grunt as well, and that's another surprise. I thought it might be missing a bit of that low down grunt. There is, when you ride in this bike, I mean, even the brakes on this, they're really nice. I was expecting it to feel a bit wooden, you know. I was expecting it to feel a bit Suzuki like, and a little bit dull at the lever and a little bit wooden, but you can just feather it, and you've got, you know, I'm not going really hard on the brakes because I can't, because of the conditions, but there's a nice feel at the lever, and I'm really surprised by that. Bad points of the machine, as I mentioned, very, very slightly snatchy throttle, and I've got this now with the maximum engine braking, and that is actually a nice amount of engine braking. It's nice to have adjustable engine braking. That is a good extra to have on a bike, and you don't get that very often on £9,000 motorcycles, so that's a nice addition. I don't like the fact that the frame is one piece, which I keep mentioning, but hey ho, that's only ever a problem unless you smash it to pieces. What else? There's very little else to really highlight of negatives, and that's not, you know, that's not based on the price point, that's based on any bike, no matter what the price. There's very few negatives. I don't like you have to do about 5 different button presses to turn off the traction control, and you can't do it while you're rolling, so you've got to fanny around before you set off if you want to have a bit of fun and pull a few wheelies. Personal niggle, I don't like the indicators being on all the time as, like, you know, sort of driving lights. Don't like that, but again, that's just a thing Honda do. I mentioned sort of vibes through the bike. I'm completely used to any vibes on this machine. There's nothing intrusive vibe wise on this bike at all. Like I say, you can feel the engine a little bit, you can feel what it's doing. You're not completely isolated from the bike, you know, and probably a bit more so than some other bikes maybe, but it's not a problem, and those vibes don't get worse as the revs increase. That's the main thing. So at motorway speeds they don't become intrusive or annoying. The seat is a little bit locked in, so I'm a big fatty, so it is a little bit locked in the seat, and it doesn't feel like masses of padding either. So I think a full day in the saddle could see you with a little bit of a sore body, and because you've got that very upright riding position, you've got a lot of weight through your bum as well. I will be collecting my SP version in about a month's time, so my SP will be ready in a month's time. I'm going to go up to the guys when my bike arrives and actually do a little bit of video, you know, about what happens with the PDI process and all of that. Look at this, look at this. So if you're interested in seeing how I get on with the whole sort of buying and ownership experience in my version of the Hornet SP, then don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be picking mine up in a few weeks time. I am very excited. I was a bit worried before, you know, ordering a bike without riding it is risky. You know, I did it because of the fantastic reviews which were done online as part of the launch, and after riding this base one, I've made the right decision. I'm completely happy and really excited now about getting my own one. So all that's left to be said is massive thanks to Farnham Honda for letting me out on this as the first person to ride this bike and letting me have a really early test ride on this machine. That's really appreciated. And massive thanks to Noah for looking after me buying mine and going through all the options and talking me through, you know, how the payment plans and all that sort of stuff as well. So big old shout out to Noah, and he's a subscriber as well, so he gets double thumbs up. So thanks for watching, guys. As always, ride safe out there, and I'll see you soon.